art teachers. I'm Erin Nelson from Campbellsport High School, and I would just like to share with you why I think you should be teaching AP Art History. I would also like to know who already teaches the course so we can connect. Fun fact, less than 100 students in the state of Wisconsin have taken the AP Art History exam, and I think Wisconsin can do better. So if you teach this class or know someone else who does, please have them get in touch with me. Just a little bit about me. I've taught AP Art History at Campbellsport High School since the 2011-2012 school year. I created my own curriculum as part of my final project that I needed for my master's degree in art education at Concordia. So that really helped me to kind of really dive in deep into the curriculum and know exactly what I needed to do. When I first started teaching this class, I taught it in the block format, and I didn't start until second semester. So I pretty much had 15 weeks to cover the entire curriculum as best I could. I've also taught this class not just in the block format, but also as a skinny, where I had my students for half a block all year. And the past 2 years I've been teaching this class has been on a traditional 8-period day. So I feel like I've tweaked my curriculum to work for in the block or in a skinny format. Also, obviously, because of COVID, I've had to teach huge portions of this class online or in cohorts. So any way that you could possibly teach this class, I feel like I've taught it. And again, have made adjustments to it. A couple other things about me is that I'm also an AP reader. And I'll talk a little bit more about that towards the end of this presentation. And then I also I couldn't go to the next slide without mentioning the lovely t-shirt design that you see on this slide. So I happened to be absent one day last May, and my students decided to design this t-shirt for our class and for me, and it was kind of a surprise. So again, these are the kinds of awesome things that happen in AP Art History, where students are willing to wear their teacher's face on the front of a t-shirt, and thank God they censored it as well. So let's move on. So I thought I should first kind of explain to you why I teach AP Art History. I just find it to be a very fun class. The students all seem to love it. It's something that I'm extremely passionate about teaching. As you can see here, I have 2 different classes that I've taught. The first group on the left, 2 of the girls in the class just decided one weekend that they're going to make, Andy Warhol t-shirts for our whole class. And the group on the right, I started doing Toga Tuesdays after we finished our unit on ancient Greece, and I can get kids to wear togas all day to school on a random Tuesday. And I do give extra credit for this, but then also a lot of people ask them why they're wearing a toga, so it's a good way to kind of promote the class. So just to give you an idea of some of the fun things that we get to do. I feel that students gain a lot by taking this course. Obviously, they learn about art history, but they learn a lot of other things. And I always get really excited every time I get a new group of students, because it's like they have no idea what journey I'm going to take them on. They have no idea what they're getting themselves into, and I think it's just a great class to teach from beginning to end when you can make a lot of those really cool connections. One thing to mention is that this course was updated for the 2016 exam and then tweaked again in 2019 when AP Classroom was introduced. So again, my own curriculum in my syllabus has changed quite a bit from when I first proposed the class to when I taught it as a block until I'm teaching it now. And I'll share some of those documents with you, but just kind of keep that in mind. Those have changed, obviously, because of those curriculum updates. So before 2016, any image in any college level textbook could be on the exam, and most works that were included were from the European tradition. So what changed now is that the focus is a more global approach that covers a wide range of art styles, techniques, and materials, and is limited to only 250 works of art. Actually, it's 403 because some of the images have more than one image, especially when you get to things like architecture, like the Acropolis or some of the cathedrals that we'll look at. So the most obvious skill that students gain from taking this course is they have the essential knowledge and understanding associated with the 250 works of art from the image list. I'm including all the images that I'm using in this presentation are works of art from the AP Art History image list. So I feel like students get a wide range of works of art. These ones here are ones that I knew nothing about until 2016 when I started teaching them. And so students get to learn, and even teachers, I feel like we get to learn a lot of pieces that maybe aren't as obvious. So like learning about Sor Juana, the feminist nun from Mexico in the 18th century, to African masks, to a Persian manuscript that functions as a Shahnameh. So again, these are all things that I learned as well. So students will learn the set 250 pieces. So another skill that students will learn in this class is civil exchange and dealing with controversial issues or images. I think it's really important that students learn how to have a conversation and to respectfully listen to opposing viewpoints. This really hasn't been a huge issue in any of my classes. There's been a few times where students feel passionately about something and not everybody agrees with that person, but I just feel like in today's world, civil exchange is a really great skill. There's also going to be some controversial topics that for students can be uncomfortable and for teachers too. Dealing with racism when teaching Kara Walker's Darkytown, or the idea of the ecstasy of Saint Teresa can be a little bit uncomfortable to talk about with students, or even some of the issues dealing with nudity. So they can be a little difficult, but I think that the more you teach it, the easier it gets, and there can be a lot of great conversations that come out of these pieces. The idea of students being encouraged to be travelers, right? The idea of serendipity and discovery. Students that have sort of a rich foundation in art history, I think, really learn to sort of seek out the emotional and intellectual joys from different aesthetic experiences. And I've been fortunate as a teacher that I've taken my students out of the country and have been with them when they visited, say, the Colosseum in Rome for the first time. And that is sort of a neat experience. So I feel like even if I'm not taking them on trips, that after this class, when they do travel, they will seek out some of these sort of art history experiences. Now, when it comes to the actual course, the way that this class is structured is around these 5 big ideas, right? Of culture, interactions with cultures, theories and interpretations, materials, process, and techniques, and then purpose and audience. The course content is broken down into 10 different units. We also have the weight distribution. So again, when we're looking at ancient Mediterranean, early Europe, and later Europe, in the Americas, those are the biggest units. That's where the bulk of the test will come from. So again, 15% of the course content is from ancient Mediterranean. Therefore, on the exam, 15% of the exam will relate to ancient Mediterranean. So hopefully this gives you an idea of how the breakdown goes. You don't have to stick with these units. I structure my units a little bit differently, and I have 12 units. So how I structure my class, first of all, I break up the units a little bit differently. I have 12 units that I use. I find most success with using annotation sheets, which is kind of what I'm showing you on the left side here. This is basically just the color printed image with all of the identification. I give these to the students. They use these to take their notes in class. They also use these to do their homework when they're reading about it or watching a video about the piece. Then in class, we spend quite a bit of time using this template to kind of organize their notes so they understand form, function, content, and context. Also understanding themes and terms that would be associated with each piece. So we do spend quite a bit of time in the beginning really focusing on how to take good notes. Then eventually I have my students work towards creating these snapshots. Now, I think it's important that I let you know that I never cover all 250 images in class. I have study guides for all of my units that I use in the beginning, and then I slowly kind of take them away as students complete their homework. So if I don't feel like they need to do it because they're doing the annotation sheets really well, then I eliminate those. Most students do prefer the Smart History videos to the textbook. And at the end of every, well, not at the end, throughout the unit, I give 5 to 6 quizzes, 10 multiple choice or 1 short essay. I always drop the lowest score, and I do allow them to work with a partner on one of the, like the first quiz that I give when we're learning new material. I think students gain a lot when they can see the thought process of another classmate and how they come to the answer. So I do find it really beneficial, and I do like that practice. So I've included here just some of the snapshots that my students have done. I usually try to have students, like I said, work in the beginning with a partner on these. Then eventually they will be completing them on their own. I usually have them do about 1 for every unit. And obviously, if I have ones that students created in prior years, I keep those, and then we just keep building. So hopefully at the end of the class, we will be able to share a Google Slides presentation that has all 250 images in it that students can then use to review for the test. So obviously, this class is a lot of lecture, but we all know that lecture can be really boring. So I try to bring in as many activities as I can to get kids out of their seat and to make it a little bit more fun and to apply some of their learning. Here I have a couple of activities that I do for my unit on ancient Greece. So you can see I have groups of students working with a partner using marshmallows and pretzels to create different Greek temples. Therefore, they're kind of showing me their understanding. And then when we do our Toga Tuesday after our unit on Greece, we use the green screen available in our media center. And again, we can kind of pick our background that we want as a group. So that's always kind of a fun day. My students enjoy playing a variety of different games for review. Telestrations is a real popular one because this one is a combination of telephone and Pictionary. Students also enjoy Taboo. I have them actually design the cards where they'll get the work of art, and then they have to list the 5 most important things about that piece. And then those are the words that you can't say when we're actually playing the game. And then Jeopardy, I have a lot of Jeopardy templates that I can share with you that relate to the 250 as well. And then there's some other games too. Human architecture, this is always fun when we are learning a lot about architecture, especially when we're looking at all the churches, right? Understanding what is a flying buttress, a dome, a barrel vault, all those terms, right? Have the students sort of act them out and kind of work together. So they usually have fun doing that, a lot of giggles. The memes are always fun. All right, another fun project that I do is the Van Gogh Yourself project. You can actually click on the link here and go to the website, and you can see people from all over the world creating different works of art using themselves as the model. So students have a lot of fun doing this. It's always kind of amazing to see how creative they can be kind of doing these at their home. A lot of times they involve even family members or friends. I just say they have to be in the work of art as well. We also take the same concept and then apply it to a class photo. So we pick a work of art that has the same amount of people that we have in our class, and then we sort of recreate that as well. So here you can see 2 examples of that. Around Valentine's Day, I always have a lot of fun having my class create a Valentine poem dedicated to their favorite work of art. So I've included my example here that I show my students. Obviously, the piece should relate to form, function, content, and context of the work. You can click the link here and see some of the other examples. Some students came up with some pretty good stuff. The AP Art History music video project. This one's a little bit more intensive, and I have to give them some time in class to work on these. A lot of the students do use the green screen that we have available in our media center. But basically what they do is they pick a work of art. So this group of students use the Terracotta Warriors. They pick a song. They rewrite the lyrics to fit the piece. And again, they need to tie it with form, function, content, and context. Then they sing the song, or they find someone else to sing the song. That's what this group did. And then they just lip sync it, and then they put it all together, and it's quite good. This is probably one of the better ones that I've had students make over the years. I also enjoy doing sort of a project runway fashion show with my students. Here you can see we used different works of art that would be considered wearable. And then they have to pick two and put them together in a new way to kind of create a style. One of the students has to model it, and then the other student talks about it. We invite other classes to come watch our fashion show. And we usually get a lot of people to kind of come. They walk the runway. We play music. It's usually a pretty fun event. You can also click the link here to see one in action. All right. So after the exam, we usually have 3 to 4 weeks after the exam to do some fun activities. I never run out of things to do with my students. A lot of times I give them different choices. It really depends on the group. But here's just a couple examples of some of the different things that I have done. A lot of my students, especially my art students, love to do the ceiling tile project. So you can see 2 examples here of works of art that my students have recreated on my ceiling tiles. Another fun one is using dolls and Barbies. I tell students to either use their old dolls or go to a thrift store or Goodwill, see what they can find, and then recreate a work of art. I have students recreate works of art on food. So here we have an example of Starry Night as a cookie and a Monet painting as a cake. You can also see at the bottom we have the seated scribe that was recreated using clay. And then one year I had everyone in the class sort of recreate a work of art, not necessarily from the 250, but using glazes on a pre-made bowl. So that one was kind of fun too. So there's tons of things that you can do after the exam. Another fun thing that I did one year with my class was we made a mini golf course. So each student was able to pick a work of art, and then they created sort of a mini golf hole to go with it. And so here's 2 of the ones from that year. We also invited other classes to come and join us, so other kids got to kind of experience. Again, just another way to sort of promote the class. As far as field trips go, here you can see one of my classes in front of the Frank Lloyd Wright building. That's a great field trip too. You can go into both of the buildings that are right next to each other. The other picture in the middle is my students in front of a sculpture at the Sculpture Garden. Again, that is part of the Milwaukee Art Museum. And then the picture on the far right is my students in front of the Joan of Arc Chapel, located at the Marquette campus. So again, this is a chapel that supposedly Joan of Arc prayed at. Somehow it ended up at the Marquette campus. It came over brick by brick and was reassembled. So again, another great opportunity to see sort of some medieval architecture here in the United States. I also have taken 2 of my classes to New York City as part of a field trip experience. I did plan this trip on my own. I found that I could save my students a lot of money, and I could really tweak the field trip to see exactly what I want to see. I've done EF trips to New York City, and you're kind of locked into what their itinerary is. So I found this a great experience. Once I did it the first time, it was a lot easier to do the second time, but it was a lot of legwork on my part. But like I said, the savings to the kids is unbelievable. And we had a great time. So here's just a couple photos from the last group that I took. We happened to go the end of February of 2020, right when the pandemic was kind of starting. Luckily, we got that in because the following weekend, New York City was pretty much shut down. So I'm always thankful that we got to do that. Another great museum to check out would be the Cloisters. This one's a little bit harder to get to, a little off the beaten path. But it was kind of a nice way to spend the day just because it was a little bit more quiet. It was a little more contemplative. I think we were the only group in the museum at the time. My students really got to look at a lot of things at a little bit more personal level. So here you can see my students looking at the Marode altarpiece, which is one of the works of art in the 250. And then just the architecture of this building is so amazing. So a lot of great photo opportunities were taken here. My students and I also enjoyed our time at the Brooklyn Museum. Here you can see our group in front of half of the Brooklyn Biombo. And then we also got to experience the Frida Kahlo exhibit where her clothes and personal items were on display. We were not allowed to take photos here, but my students did really enjoy getting to see her eyebrow pencil that she would have used to create her famous unibrow. We also spent some time at the Whitney Museum. This was kind of added in at the last minute. We realized that there was an Andy Warhol exhibit going on, so we decided to add this on the fly one day instead of doing something else, and so that was kind of fun too. So I'm pretty sure everything that I've shared with you seems a little bit overwhelming, so I just want to kind of take you through the first steps of what you should do if you think this is something that you want to teach in the future. So the first thing that you would need to do is get course approval from your administration or from your school board. And I don't feel like anyone would have any problem doing this because I feel like most schools are happy to add more AP classes to their course offerings. You will eventually have to create a syllabus for College Board approval. However, to make your first year easier, you're better off just adopting one of the existing syllabi. This makes life a lot easier, and then later, after you've taught the class for a while, you can tweak it to how you want it to be, because this can be a very daunting, sort of overwhelming process. The other thing that I spend a lot of time doing is recruiting. I go into other classes and talk about my class. I create posters. I advertise on social media. I send letters to kids that I think would be great students to invite to take the class, and then I usually seal it with wax just to give it that little extra, like, this is important. So I feel like recruitment is huge because you have a lot of competition with other classes, and I want my class to run every year, so I try to get as many students as I can. You also will eventually need to select a textbook for your class, and then I highly recommend attending an AP Art History Institute. Usually these take place over the summer. I did attend one of them when I first started teaching this class that I found very helpful, but then when the class was restructured in 2016, I actually applied for a scholarship and was able to go to New York for a week and visit some of the museums and take a class there. So that was a lot of fun. So it can seem like a lot of work, but really if you just kind of focus on these few things here to kind of get you started, you will be all set. By the way, almost forgot to mention that for those of you that are familiar with Smart History and know who Steve and Beth are, you can see that I'm pictured with both of them here. So I had the opportunity when I was in Salt Lake City for the AP reading for art history. They were the guest speakers there. So I actually got to have my photo taken with them. So I thought that was a pretty cool experience. I also included just some of the fun art history books that I have in my classroom that kids can check out just for another resource. Sometimes I tie some of these in with some of the things I'm teaching. I really do kind of like the Guerrilla Girls Guide to the History of Western Art. But also the Barron's AP Art History Review book is a great one that I usually tell kids, if you want to buy one of these books, that's probably the one to get. Not gonna lie, teaching art history brings the best Christmas gifts. Last year, here's just a few of the gifts that I received, either from coworkers, friends, family, students. So anything from socks to wine to a Van Gogh mug. So lots of fun gifts. I also added the link here to become an AP reader. The AP Art History reading is where about 150 art historians, some are high school teachers, some are college teachers. We get together in Salt Lake City. The last 2 years we've been doing it virtually, which was a little bit tough, so I'm glad to hear that it's going to be in person for 2022. But while I was there, I had the best professional development that I've ever had in my life. I've met some of the most amazing people that I consider close friends. I also got to see Spiral Jetty as part of that experience, and then I also was able to go to the sun tunnels as well. So just a great way to spend 7 days. If any of you would like to apply, please just follow this link here. then I'd just like to take a moment to thank you guys for listening to my art history presentation. I have my contact information on here, my Instagram. Please get in touch with me if you need anything from me. I'm happy to help anyone that is interested in doing this. I also would love to, like I said, form a group of teachers that are already teaching this so that we can network and maybe help some of the new people that might be interested in starting this off. So again, thank you, thank you, thank you.